Hello and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. We're going to wrap up today with a special selection, which is where one of you tell me exactly what it is I need to check out. Today's comes at us from Terranekla. Gems Company was a virtual idol group under Square Enix and Dear Stage managed by Yosuke Saito, producer of the NieR games. Dear Stage also took part in Yoko Taro's idol group Yorha. Two members of Gems Company sang for the Yorha version 1.3a and version 1.3aa stage plays. The members of Gems Company also got to voice characters in the NieR Automata version 1.1a anime. This is the ending song for the second season. Keiichi Okabe composed it, Yoko Taro wrote the lyrics. That is a lot to take in, particularly if you aren't aware what any of this means. But for those who don't know, I have been playing the NieR Automata game over on Twitch, and I finished it last week. So this is actually coming in at a very good time. And as mentioned, there is an anime that is supplementary media to the game. I don't know. I'm honestly very confused about all of it. But this is the theme song for the end of season 2 of the anime. So let's dive into this and see what's going on. So we have some interesting glitch in the center, whispers off to the side. That chord progression is 100% Keiichi Okabe though. Such heavy weight and melancholy. Some really nice vocal counterpoint here, would have fit in really well last week. Wait. A little miniature round in there. really rich harmonies there. Oh, the run up on the strings. Wait, is it over already? Dang. If that ending had gone on any longer, I think I would have started crying. I could already feel the water starting to well up. It never got to the point when, actually started crying. It's just, the thing is, Keiichi Okabe, I don't, I don't think I've heard any of his works outside of his soundtrack writing for the NieR franchise. But what I have heard from him, it all matches this. It's this extreme sense of wistful melancholia, of a want for a better world that you can't imagine. It's just that things are so bad now and things have been so bad for such a long time that you can't even begin to fathom what a better world would be, or a better moment or a better life or whatever, but you know something's got to be better than this. And it's just that well of melancholy mixed with this hope for something better. And it shows up in so much of his work, and this song too. It's in the chord progression, it's in the swells, it's in the vocal harmonies. Every moment of this song is just tugging at your heartstrings. And it never lets go until it just stops. The ending kind of comes out of nowhere. I'm kind of surprised by that. I wish it had a little bit more resolution to it, but I'm sure that has its purpose too. Okabe's he's a great composer as far as I'm concerned. And everything that I've listened to of his, everything that we've analyzed on the channel, there's strong intentionality to every decision. But yeah, I mean that right there, we just covered the whole emotional weight of this track. Intense melancholy and a hope for the future that is it's I don't know, hope that we can return to a better past that might not have ever existed. It's such a heavy sound. And the thing is I don't think I've heard any song that matches this. We've listened to melancholic music, we've listened to hopeful music and wistful music, but there's a specific, I don't have the words for that specific flair in this. The positivity, the hope element hurts. Something about it, as if it's unfounded hope. Optimism for something that will never come. Something along those lines, I feel, is so baked into his works. And this song leans into that too. Now, on the other side of things, though, this is a very vocal-driven track. There are, at most times, 3 vocals going on. When the song starts off, we have our center vocal sung, and then 2 other vocal lines whispered. I don't know if it's just like a static whisper or like implied pitch whispering, because whispers don't have pitch to them, but you can kind of make the illusion of like a lower whisper to a higher whisper. And so if we take that idea of perceived pitch along with rhythmic elements, we can kind of view them as melodies. And at this point, we have counterpoint right from the beginning of the song. 3 totally different ideas. A beautiful buildup from the verse into the chorus as these lines all begin to coalesce. We have like, I don't know, 7 whispered parts all at once. The strings swell up and it bursts into this explosive chorus with 2 vocals harmonizing and a 3rd vocal doing counterpoint to that first line. But the 2 vocals that harmonize aren't stuck, intertwined with each other. They can separate and deviate. These 3 vocals are all dancing around each other, sometimes locking in, sometimes exploring their own route. Like I mentioned, this would have been really good for last week's vocal counterpoint theme. And that's pretty much the whole song then. But I do want to touch on one other thing here. The strings. Here's what I love about the strings, because they build the entire song. Without them, I really feel like this song doesn't hit as hard. It isn't just the idea that we start out with usually just a quarter note attack with one of the strings, maybe some ornamental stuff from a violin, and then build into this multi-layered chorus. It isn't just that, but it's also the evolution of ideas. Having that single quarter note there in the verse, building into something a little bit more complex in the chorus, it is this element of evolution throughout this song. It takes an emotion in the verse and says, well, how can we examine this? How can we re-examine it? What can we look at differently here? And I think just like how the vocals in that pre-chorus, all the whispers going off at the same time, it gets chaotic, difficult to hear. It's a way of taking this idea of multi-layers and moving towards something positive out of it rather than negative, where all of those layers create chaos. It's so much overlapping ideas that are all kind of competing with each other for attention, for the listener's attention. We have this massive swell that kind of grabs it all together and says, look, we need to work together. And the chorus lands with the strings at the forefront. We have this violin rocketing to the top with this beautiful ascending line, landing on this big moment at the beginning of the chorus. And all of those stray vocals come together for this beautifully intertwined 3-line vocal part. And the way that I see it is it's the strings swelling up and grabbing all of this chaos and making something out of it. It's a very affecting pre-chorus to chorus transition there. We've heard songs that gradual swell into a big chorus. That's pretty typical, but you don't hear too many that take chaos that wasn't there prior and straightens it out for something a bit less chaotic, more reliable. And the strings also, I think, just as a timbre, fit really well with this. Strings show up a lot in Okabe's music, so I don't think it's anything in particular that was chosen specifically for this song, but there's always something that I feel is warm and resonant about bowed strings that just amplifies this emotion really well. It kind of pulls a melancholy out of the tones of these instruments, and I think that pairs well with the melancholic chord progressions. One last thing before we hit lyrics, though. For fans of NieR who can hum the melodies from the NieR soundtrack, this wasn't a medley, but parts of this felt like it came from other songs from the NieR franchise. Am I wrong in that? Is it just a case of Keiichi Okabe just using similar chord progressions or melodies, or is there actual parts lifted from other songs? Because I'd probably say 3 or 4 moments in here, and it really is just, a couple of bars. And I'm like, dude, I've heard that exact thing before. I can't place, what song. I don't have the song names memorized and stuff like that. It's just like, I know I've heard that. That clicked in my mind. So I'm kind of curious about that. Let me hit some lyrics on this. We'll see what's going on there. Well, I suppose I need to eventually talk about this. I've been staring at these lyrics for about 20 minutes now. And I've played the song another 2 times. And I think I've played the ending another time beyond that. I will tell you, I completely missed the idea that there's a bridge entirely. The second chorus and the bridge and the final chorus all blurred together for me, but the bridge is phenomenal. There are some different chord progressions in there, and it's this really big swell up, and I feel like the hope element is heightened in that moment, which actually makes it more heartbreaking. I think this is why the chorus hit me as hard as it did on that first listen, and why it continues to be a big moment, because there is this really big element of hope without the melancholy attached to it at the end of the bridge, and it just keeps rising and rising. The pitches rise. It feels like there's a subtle key change at like 60% into it as well. There's this cool part where each of the 3 vocals does 4 syllables and holds the last one out, and then another one comes in, holds that one out, then another one comes in, and then they start it all over again. And they do this build up again. But the second time through, it feels like a small key change to me. And it brings in this, I don't know, strength. It's beautiful. And, 8 bars later, the whole thing just kind of, just a puff of smoke. The music just kind of leaves, and then we enter into a mostly a cappella form of the chorus, which to me just feels so heartbreaking. But the swell into the large, full chorus for the final time through these lines, dude, it is just... Yeah, the verses are good. Don't get me wrong. I enjoy the verses. I think they do a fine job of creating pacing, setting the tone before we get into the chorus. But the bridge into the final chorus, like the last minute and a half or so, that is just utter perfection. And like I said, I listened to the song a couple more times with the lyrics pulled up, trying to match where everything is, because it's a really dense song lyrically. And even after that, I was like, I still need to hear the ending one more time. It's so good. Okay. We have to get these lyrics done, though. I'll be honest, I'm not 100% confident that I have any grasp over what's going on here. This is very interesting. I was given an HTML file with the lyrics in it. This is highly unusual. An HTML file, for those who don't know, is the code that your websites are. Your web browser, whether that's Microsoft Edge or Chrome or Firefox, takes the code, the HTML code, and presents the visual element of that to you when you visit the website. I was given the HTML code. I had to put that into Firefox, and it gave me the lyrics in a very interesting way. I am very grateful for the effort that went into this. This was, the thing is, I still don't have a strong grasp on the lyrics, but this was immeasurably helpful in the little bit of ground I made in the understanding here. It presents whispered vocals with their own type of coloring. It presents the three lines of vocals, the center, left, and right, with their designated areas in these stanzas. All of it. It's just, it's phenomenal. It's in kanji, it's in romaji. There's a literal translation and more of a liberties taken. Maybe this is what they were going for, translation. And there's context to this. It's just, there's so much work done. I'm going to ask if it's okay to put this out in the public. And if so, you'll be able to find a link to it in the description. This is excellent though. But the thing here is that everything's fragmented, which is where I'm going to take some liberties and try to make my own translation here, comes into play. The literal translation, the lead vocal in the verse, first verse, says, "Ah, that darkness. Ah, so softly indulged. Ah, overflowing within the repeating spiral." Yeah, literally that doesn't really mean much. Also of interest, all three of those ahs are spelled differently in the translation, and in the context it states that those different spellings are intentional. I don't know why. I've stared at this, trying to figure out patterns, trying to figure out what they might represent. I am at a total loss. The only thing I've noticed is that during the chorus, the three types, the three spellings of them are doled out to specific vocalists. The left side always gets one, the middle always gets a different, and the right side always gets the last. But here in the verse, the only vocalist who is singing uses all three of them. I don't know. I listened to it in comparison to the glitch sounds that were coming in during the verse. I've looked at it lyrically. I'm very lost by it, but I am beyond intrigued. But while the main vocalist says that darkness, softly indulged, overflowing within the repeating spiral, about generally taking like this idea of falling into a melancholy, into a darkness that's cyclical, just constantly going in circles within this negativity. One vocal over here whispers, "Had been lost ever since we met, fled into the gears of duty, averted my eyes from the darkness of truth, not allowed to scream if that is my sin, despairing over the happiness I had grasped." The other vocalist says, "Met again, only to lose, confused, falling apart, fled into the gears of duty, not allowed to scream in an unending battle, despairing over the happiness I had grasped." There is regret in this. There is sort of disgust for actions of the past, but there's also explanation for the actions of the past, why they did the things they did. An element of feeling lost, of not knowing what to do next, so just locking in, just falling into a pattern. What do they have to do? And it said, "Fled into the gears of duty." Whatever I'm asked, I'm just going to do it because it keeps my mind off of other things, but I am, in constant despair. From here, we have all of the voices, the whispers, layering over top of each other. For the first time, born, met, couldn't turn away, knew, prayed, lost, set free, loved, broken, stole, gave all, gazed, cut, burned, killed, stripped away, went mad, screamed, believed, was betrayed, was begged, killed, warm, was begged, gentle, yet was taken away, yet was killed, could not endure, pretended not to see. And from all of this, we have the line that comes through, "Even so, I was saved by him." So despite everything that happened to me, this person still reached out to save me. In the second verse, we'll see similar ideas in the first part about just trying to, just move forward. That there's a happiness they want, they can't reach it, and so instead they just focused on what was, what helped keep their mind off of things. Said that they were screaming in the repeating this hour of ruin. Once again, talking about cycles and despair, things going downhill. But in the layered, what are they called? Whispers. You and I, this world, fate, hope, blessing, curse, sin, humans, machines, moon, truth, lies, the end, the falsehood that gives birth to gods. Yorha, bases, satellites, forests, seas, deserts, cities, rising madness, spreading contamination, promised ruin, approaching footsteps, harsh days, death of ash, broken breath, drowned breath, meaning of killing, yet her touched hand, and that is why I was saved by her. This one focuses on not necessarily a series of negativity, though there are negative elements in here, such as curses and sins and lies, but there is also truth and forests and seas and deserts and cities, positive things here. It's very interesting to see two very distinct themes in the lyrics across these two verses. Now, about now, you're probably thinking, what does any of this have to do with anything? I have a little bit of perspective having experienced this story that this theme is a part of. And it seems like, for the most part, it covers the first half of the story, which is mostly about just doing what you're told to do, kind of witnessing some not great things and kind of questioning what's real, what's really happening, kind of seeing some pieces come together. And it's these two people who work together and always have each other's back through all of this. And I really feel like that's what most of this is talking about. But then we get to the chorus, and I'm a little lost by this. The chorus is fragmented. All three vocals are singing very short snippets of things. Once again, there's a lot of ahs in here that break up the words, but if I remove those, we have warm, to atone, memory, that wound will heal. With you, dream, echoing far away, record that sin cannot be spoken. Warm dream, even though it's a lie, with you, that punishment will heal. And they kind of have a gist of things. What I think is interesting is that both vocalists left and right start with the word warm. Vocalist 2 says with you, dream, and slightly after that, vocalist 3 comes in with the word dream. And this actually happens quite often where they're going to sing similar phrases, but those phrases have different context or they're slightly out of time with each other. It's what creates the interesting winding paths that I was talking about, where the vocals will sometimes be lined up and then sometimes explore their own thing before returning back into what another vocalist is doing. It's what creates this complex counterpoint going on in here. I think even at a certain point, there are elements of Hocket in here, even though it's not quite as strong as I would normally need to say that this is definitively what a Hocket is, but I can hear parts of it going on in here because the focus is bouncing around between these three vocalists so frequently. But here we have this idea again. Atonement, memories, a dream that echoes far away, sins that cannot be spoken, and punishments and wounds that will heal. It's about having regrets for what's been done. It's about wanting something better. There's melancholy here. There's hope. Hope that things will heal. Two vocalists sing about things that will heal. It matches that hopeful melancholy really well, even though I don't quite understand what it's talking about. The bridge is kind of more of the same idea. Atonement, even if death comes, that person will melt. With me, song, prayer, broken to connect, that meaning will not unravel. Even the moon's lies, even if I gently cover my ears, even if the meaning of sound disappears, still. And then there's this really cool, I was talking about one line, and they kind of like hold that note out and create these harmonies. Breath stopped voice and guilt ash fills. It says, even my life after that cannot reach you. And all three vocalists are pretty much in on these two sentences. And it's interesting that there's so much intertwining things going on here. This is the only place in the whole song that everything lines up perfectly. These three vocalists say these two phrases, well, I guess one phrase, in perfect synchronicity, perfect harmony. Even my life cannot reach you. It is a line about being disconnected from someone else. And yet it is the only point that they are totally in sync. I think that's a really interesting schism in there. And then the next two stanzas are the final chorus, and they bring back the words from the first chorus and the second chorus. It's big. There's a lot of depth to this, and I'm not entirely sure what it all means, but there is, like I mentioned, feelings of regrets, of remorse, of a want for something more, for things to be better, that things are not great right now. They haven't been great for a while, and I just want to know how to make things better. And I think it lines up really well with the themes of the game. I haven't seen the anime yet. It is on my to-do list. I got to finish up one other show, and when that's done, I'll be jumping over to this. I'm excited. But I guess it's going to wrap this one up then. These are my thoughts on Gem's Company, Hi to Inori. Music written by Keiichi Okabe, lyrics written by Yoko Taro. Let me know what you thought of this though. Is there anything that stood out to you? Anything that you'd like to add on to what I said or correct me on? Maybe you have your own interpretation of any of this. I'm so lost. But it is such an emotionally evocative track. Even without knowing what the lyrics are, you can feel so much of it. And to me, that's good art. That's fantastic art. But what's your opinion on it? Do you have your own take on things? Please put all of that and any other thoughts you might have into the comments below. Above that, in the description box, you'll find a link to Linktree. Takes you here. You can find links to my music, ways to support the channel, a link to the Discord server, and so much more. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all three of those. All right, that wraps it up for today. I'll be back tomorrow, though, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m. UTC as usual. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever you choose to watch my videos.